You're listening to Where You Live with Gene and Tony.
Welcome back to Where You Live with Gene and Tony. Our guest today is Todd Rooker. We're talking about financial management, what to do when you are in financial ruin. We've been talking about the mindset that people have and how we get behind with our credit cards, with our house, with this idea that we have to buy everything now. And Todd, you've been offering some great information for folks, and I also want to take a moment here to let people know that Todd is going to be speaking this week. It will be February 26th for a one-day workshop at the Ramada Inn over by the Mall of America in Bloomington. And what's involved with this one-day workshop?
Well, it is to teach a person how to create a comprehensive budget and to manage money properly. Comprehensive budgeting, there's two significant things that people make as mistakes. They have a budget, they sit down, they write down all the bills that they think are going to come in throughout the course of the month. They take a deep sigh of relief, having also calculated how many pay periods they'll have between now and the end of the month. And then the end of the month comes and those people swear that someone stole the money out of their checking account because there isn't enough money to pay the bills. Of course, they forget about dance lessons and hockey and fishing and dining out and, holiday spending and birthdays and anniversaries, and none of those things are ever in their budget 1 year in advance. So their budget was messed up from the very beginning. We go through and we spend enormous time ferreting out the different expenditures and planning so that a person knows what they're really spending. So instead of saying silly things as it relates to these decisions, like, well, I'm willing to do anything to keep my house. Okay, you are. All right, so let's do a comprehensive budget. And then I look at where they're spending their money, gifts and special occasions, and I say, so how much, which one of your kids is going to have a birthday party? And then in the next breath, they'll say, well, they're not willing to give up those things under any circumstances. So to make decisions from that accurate position. Then the other thing is to manage money, meaning that controlled spending is the meaning of managing money. When you're finished, you don't factor things out or calculate at the end of the month when it's too late to do anything about it. That doesn't do you any good, balancing the checkbook and reconciling in arrears, as I call it. You got to control spending, and that's what this is.
And that's where you talked about the further separated a person is from their money, the less realism they have in their mind of what they have to spend.
No doubt about it. This is something that when I do it one-on-one, I charge people $2,500 for 1 year for a contract to do it, and we're trying to create a way to help more people because I'm booked out weeks and months in advance. And so, this is a way for me to get this message out to more people at a fraction of the cost. We're going to actually create the budget and teach them how to manage it in an eight-hour class, and it'll be the most powerful thing people go to.
So how much is a class like this cost?
It's $200. It's $197 is what it is. But because of the show, we're offering people a 50% off if they follow the link and go to the website and sign up. So it's $100. For an 8-hour class, and it's awesome.
And this is great. This is 8 hours for you. You'd normally charge $250 an hour just for someone to be in front of you, but now they get 8 hours of you in having a little bit more time to really kind of put these things together.
Absolutely.
Where do we go? Where does the listener go to get the information about this
your
workshop?
The link specifically is www.moneymanagementsecretslive. That is moneymanagementsecretslive.com. And there is a link to sign up, and there will be a promo code to get $100 off of it.
Okay.
You can also go to our direct website, which is fine too.
Let's turn and talk about some of these options. We've a lot of people have heard when they live in a world of credit that, hey, there's bankruptcy, there's this thing called loan modification, a number of things. I'd like you to just talk about that a little bit here with what time we have left on the show. Loan modification. People have heard that term for probably the last couple of years, but from everything that I'm able to see, I've not been able to see something that's more inefficient and unable to be able to take care of a person and being in trouble in losing their home.
Yes. Well, you heard early in the segment that my military background, and so I've always been a proponent of contingency plan A, B, and C, and never to have one plan. You don't build strategies around something that has a 50% chance of success. You have to have contingency planning. Well, in the case of loan modification, 90+% of the people applying for loan modifications are being turned down. And if they had a simple formula, they would know from the very onset that they had little or no hope of succeeding. And that isn't to say that I'm going to dissuade a person from trying to get it, because on the off chance that they do, who am I to tell them not to give it a shot?
Sure.
Well, give our listeners an idea of why is it that it's set up to be a failure for them and not help them?
Well, I mean, the first thing you got to know is if you take your gross income times 0.31% and divide it by 12, if that number isn't less than your current mortgage payment, principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, you have no hope. In other words, a guy says to me he's got a $1,500 mortgage and he can't afford to make the payment. I say, how much do you earn? He says, I make $40,000. My wife makes $25,000. I say, okay, you got $65,000 times 0.31 divided by 12. That's $1,679 a month. Guess what? That's higher than what your current mortgage payment is. They wouldn't even modify your loan to $1,500.
Now, see,
Wow.
that was where people got into trouble. Here you're saying that a person realistically should take a look and say, I can't afford more than 31% of my income to go towards a house payment. And here people have been told, oh, don't worry about it. Whatever the payment is, we'll do something, an interest-only loan, to be able to allow you to buy more with that money. And people now have no way of recovering and being able to purchase their home. They're going to just get further and further behind.
Yeah, and I'm not even necessarily certain that I believe that 31% of gross income is a particular multiplier which is accurate in the first place. This guy in particular I'm telling you about had 4 children. That's a 31% of gross income is a totally different proposition when you've got 4 kids as opposed to being single. So that is a broad brush that may not actually be of help. But the one thing that is worth noting is that banks do not decrease an interest rate because you're a good person and you've made your payments in the past. Meaning,
they don't.
Nobody's modifying your loan from 6% to 2% because Sally down the street got 2%. You should too. They modify the loan to a percentage of gross income, and to accomplish that, they will lower the interest rate to as low as a particular, let's say 2%, to accomplish that objective, not the other way around. And so that's important to note. Now, why don't the mortgage companies modify loans like crazy? Well, without getting into too much detail, you just need to understand that banks potentially are making money on foreclosures. So for all the people who are out there saying, well, obviously they don't want my house back, you may not necessarily know what you're talking about. Don't forget that Bank of America bought Countrywide loans for 8 cents on the dollar. So your $200,000 mortgage that they now hold, they paid $16,000 for. They foreclose on your house that they sell for $100,000 and they had a mortgage of $200,000. Well, guess what? They actually are making $100,000 on a $16,000 investment. That's why you heard Robo signing and Bank of America foreclosing on 17,000 properties a day.
And then above all of this, the homeowner, even though the bank's okay, is still going to be on the hook for the balance of what they owe.
Well, in Minnesota, you'll often hear people say, well, if you only have one mortgage, you have no problem. Well, that's not necessarily true at all, because we are non-recourse in so much as a mortgage company cannot pursue after the sheriff sale has taken place. However, prior to sheriff sale, they can pursue 100% of the debt on the first mortgage. Moreover, if you short sale a property prior to sheriff sale, they can pursue all the deficiency. Or if they foreclose in an actionable or what's known as a judicial foreclosure, they can pursue 100% of their debt. And remember, there's only 11 states in the United States who can't pursue deficiency after sheriff sale. Most of them can. And so the banks, number one, can get as much as, use the analogy I did just a moment ago, thinking about Bank of America paying $16,000 on a $200,000 mortgage. Well, let's say the home does sell for $100,000. That means there's a $100,000 deficiency, the difference between the mortgage of $200,000 and the sale price of $100,000. Well, banks under the federal programs can get as much as 85% subsidies on that deficient loss, meaning on the $100,000 loss, they can get as much as 85%. $85,000.
$85,000 of that.
Absolutely. And we're not done yet, because in addition to that, they also are able to pursue the consumer in some cases for 100% of the debt. And even if politically they don't want to do that because it looks bad, they'll sell that debt to a debt collection law firm for 10 cents on the dollar, who will go after the consumer for all of the money. Now they made $95,000. Then they get to write off 100% of the debt on the profit side of the ledger, which would have been $35,000 in taxes on $100,000 worth of money. My goodness, they're making money on foreclosures.
Yeah. And because of this, you have the mortgage company saying, I want you to share your information with me so we can see if we can work something out. I'd like you to talk about that, but we've got to take a break. When we come back, talk about how transparency may not be your best friend in dealing with a loan modification. That's only here on Where You Live with Gene and Tony on AM 1280, The Patriot.